call, right? We should talk more. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, totally. Are you gonna do it on OBS?
Yeah. Only thing is that on Telegram I see you huge, and I see myself tiny. So it's
Should we talk over to JC or something?
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea.
Okay. I'll send you a JC link and you
Or
set
even
up
like
OBS.
Discord.
Discord is proprietary software.
It's true. This is true. But, lots of the internet is running on proprietary software. The drivers in your webcam are proprietary software. So, there's...
I think it takes an active effort to break through it. It's a bit of a Goliath effort, but I'm pretty keen on it.
Do you have Discord?
I do.
Are you do you use it daily?
No, I don't.
Right. Weekly?
I don't want to talk to them.
Alright.
Probably like 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, well, fair enough. In that case, okay. There we go then. So my issue with Jitsi is I don't have any issue with Jitsi. I'm complaining for no reason. No, it's just that Discord is so. What's so fun about Discord is that there's a few Discords where you can just set up shop and whatever links that we want to talk about, we drop them in the chat, and then people will bloody show up and just join in. I feel like that is just there's just nothing else like it.
How do people find it? Is it through the Discord website that you can search up?
No, basically we just set up shop in someone else's Discord. And if they start complaining, we'll be like, okay, fine, here's a link to our Discord if we can have that conversation over there. So yeah, now I have to. So yeah, there we go. Yeah, if you'd be so kind, I'm gonna turn on the light and take off my hat. Actually, my hair's in a bun, so I might as well keep on the hat. Or switch to. These are not the droids you're looking for mode. Hello, MJ, look, you're making me be a tiny little small thumbnail. This is not going to be a very amusing video. You should definitely check out meet.organize.earth/radio regen. Right? How much better is this? In theory. Gee, MJ, you're so right about open source software. This is 10 times better. Your video quality is a lot worse, though. And I can't hear you. I mean, okay, I love open source software, you know that. It's just that I wish it was, I wish that open source software was the default, that it was the only option, so that it wouldn't receive such like limited input, and that it would be the sort of in the end, subpar thing that it seems to be.
I think that's where web medium and then web help that up. I'm hearing an echo from the.
Oh my god, this is so much worse than Telegram video chat. This is awful.
Yeah, it's not great, is it?
No, this is.
Why is there an echo though?
Because I'm not wearing cans. And this is oh yeah, I should use one of those like cardioid microphones that has like a. Anyway, that's tech stuff. All right. It's fine. It's fine. Do you have a better idea?
Since you're working now.
Yeah, but the video quality is kind of.
Yeah, the main thing is the audio though.
It's also a lot worse. Yeah.
I was sorting all my like random voice notes over the last 2 years and sent you the screenshot. Guess how much memory all of those like 2+ years of random voice notes here and there. It took less than 700 megabytes.
Yep, that makes sense.
Isn't that cool? If that was like video feed, that'd be gigabytes upon gigabytes.
Yeah.
Like a couple of them were like, I was hanging out with people and they would have been like over an hour long.
Mm-hmm. Are you trying to say that we should just record this podcast audio only?
No, well, for like a radio thing, it makes sense, I think, in terms of storage until we get bigger storage.
Yeah.
And like actually designing a system, but there was like a Twitter thing, like you said, actually. You've talked about Twitter, if that was like 15-second voice notes.
I'm still so surprised that that's not a thing. I guess it is. That probably is a thing, but it's not known.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would dig that. I would live on there. You know? I would be spamming that. Huh?
Are you recording yet?
Yes.
Nice. Where's it going?
No, just recording. It's just local hard drive space.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, what have you got to say? What's on your mind?
I would love to pretend that there's a ton of things on my mind, or that I've somehow managed to busy myself intellectually with pressing matters. Nothing. I've drawn a complete blank. No, I had a dream. Though. I had a dream that there was this sort of gorilla, but with a cobra head, wearing a pinstripe suit and a tie, and they had an office, but and there was this old dude coming to like check on what they've been up to, and he was like to this old dude like, okay, well, step into my office, and he opens the door, and it's just an empty room. And this old dude is looking at him with like a raised eyebrow, like, okay, sure, and just goes inside, because this beast was implying that there was all this books and all this theory and all this stuff that they were working on, but inside it's empty. It's like, you're not reading any books in there. Anyway, okay, well, we'll see. And after a while, only this monster comes out and is like just jubilant, because apparently it's like, well, they've decided to call it a debacle. You know, just a debacle. Years of deliberately and systematically undermining any sense of, any sense of. It wasn't even really clear in the dream, but it's kind of like just whatever we need to live together in peace and harmony, whatever that is, yeah, undermining that consistently, systematically, deliberately for years and years and years. And, and the conclusion is, well, that surely is a debacle, but there's no need for system change. Also the old dude that never comes out of the room. I don't know what happened there, and who said that the monster was supposed to be the one to bring the news about what exactly the outcome of this sort of investigation into their business practices was, but. And I had a sense that it correlated with this sort of constitutional crisis that is happening in the Netherlands right now, because the entire political sphere in the Netherlands has just like sort of this it's just crumbling. Any sense of decency, reliability, professionalism. It's just crumbling. It was a facade all along, and the idea that we were somehow, like, oh no, we have a functioning democracy. That is just, I don't think anybody still really believes that. Like, I think there's still some people who wholeheartedly believe that the system we have could work in theory if it wasn't populated by people who are only there to serve their own egos and their own interests. But I mean, even those people can probably be, if you off the record, heard to say, well, I don't know if I actually believe that, but I would like to believe it, because in a way, we know that there aren't really, or at least there aren't well-known alternatives to representative liberal democracy. And as far as liberal democracy goes, supposedly we do it better than most. But ours also sucks. And that's kind of a bleak situation when you're contrasting that to this constantly hyped threat from Russia and China and geopolitics, and it's like you kind of like being made to fear abstract powers in order to shore up support for something that you kind of don't trust. It's really hard to unmesh yourself from that if you don't already have a different system in mind that you have faith in. Luckily, I happen to be one of those people. So what I would say to people who are afraid of, Russia and China and Turkey banding together to invade Europe is, well, that thing that these anarchist hippies have been saying all along, like we should get out of the city and live like decentralized, self-sustaining communities without any central hierarchies of power. Yeah, that also happens to be that would also happen to be the strategy that you would need to adapt in case NATO doesn't work, which chances are it won't, and you actually need to avoid having any central points of failure in case you're getting invaded by a more numerous and stronger force. You kind of need to have you need to have no central vulnerabilities, so that invading you becomes you have to like preemptively organize yourself to be kind of what do you call that again?
Autonomous.
Yeah, but I mean, guerrilla, right? Guerrilla.
Yeah.
You have to be, and the beautiful thing with guerrilla warfare is, is that the objective is to keep fighting rather than to win. As long as you maintain some capacity to squirm while being occupied, you have not lost, because you continuously undermine the perception that the occupation is successful in a way, which it's all a game of charades. It's what you can get people to believe. So yeah, this is kind of what's been on my mind, and as you know, I find it very hard to get coherent thoughts together if I'm not trying to share them with, let's say, you.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a lot to think of on your own. It takes sharing it. I think that's how we get forward, as well as finding community and all of it.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part, right? Because it's like, oh wow, we have all these big challenges ahead of us. What do we do about it? Like, well, the answer is let's make an awesome, beautiful, community-based life. It's like, Wait, no. I thought that you were going to come up with some kind of awful thing. Like, what do we do about it? Oh, you remember austerity, that but worse. You remember like, well, we can go back and like live in poverty and hovels and all this crap. It's like, no. The issues that we're living through are caused by the same system that are keeping us in a worse lifestyle than we want to be. Like the isolation that we're experiencing with lockdown and the kind of precariousness or the precarity of our situation and the fear that we have for our own well-being and our ability to care for our communities and our families, all the things that make that worse, like, yeah, this the circumstances in which we have to live through this crisis are caused by the same system and the same way of life that is causing the crisis itself. And we can come up with a much nicer way to live that would also mitigate the issues that we're having. Let's say COVID never goes away. Let's say, like, already in Belgium, which is, about an hour and a half drive south of here, they have vaccinated people who got infected with COVID anyway because of a mutation. I remember last time we were talking about how I said this would happen, right? The vaccination rate is so slow that by the time people are getting vaccinated, mutations will have happened that make those vaccines useless. And the reason that the vaccination rate is so low is because, the vaccines are being made under patents, and those patents are being enforced, and the companies that have the patents don't have the production capacity to get these vaccines going. And basically, literally, Bill Gates did it. As in, we all know the story. Oxford vaccine turned into the AstraZeneca vaccine because he paid a few $1 million to the university there, and corrupted the initial intention of releasing this patent for free to the world ages ago. When was that even? Like either early 2020 or late 2019, when they were working on it. They had already put that intention out there. And late last year, of course, you had the WTO vote about the vaccine patents.
Yeah.
Where the global north, basically us, decided to fuck over everybody for the sake of profit again. Because, well, that's how the global north became the global north. Why change a winning team? Well, because it represents an existential threat to the survival, not just of that dichotomy, but of the species. And where was I going with this? The system caused the crisis. Corona is a symptom of a larger and looming crisis. And the most predictable thing is playing out right now. We've waited so long that the vaccines that are on the market now are not useful anymore, because there are variants that are already immune or that are already ignoring the vaccines that are on the market. So, and we're not getting herd immunity fast enough for that situation either, because we're building up some herd immunity. Turns out that, by the way, Holland, we kept the herd immunity strategy. We pretended that we weren't doing that, but we totally kept it. And news has leaked now that they were always, that was always the intention, and they never wavered from that intention. They just realized that it was a bad PR thing, so they kind of made a different story, but didn't actually change the strategies. And now they're like boasting that people have immunity because we've already had so many people who've had it, so that we've had like 4 million people who've had COVID, so now that we have 10 million people with immunity. They're like, hold on, how does this immunity actually work? Like, are you actually immune to it if you've had it? And then PM was like, or Rutte was like, I don't know, I don't have that data. But it was Sylvana Simons, right? She said, but you just said that the people who had it are now immune. Yet
that was the way he was cut out.
Suddenly you don't know if that's the case. So hey,
he was cut out.
No, this is like the 7th in as many days. We have a real political crisis going on. Like, liberal democracy is not fit for purpose. Never was, never will be. But specifically now during Corona, shows you just how it is completely just a ploy to try and or it's become a ploy to just have the market run everything, society. And that is just well, as you can see, it's a mad, genocidal, omnicidal, and ridiculous notion. Right. So where was it going? What if COVID never goes away? How would you respond to that? Oh, well, you go and establish decentralized, smaller scale local communities that are more self-sufficient, let's say around Dunbar's number, and then you have space and, you spread people. The same thing that I was talking about before, like what if Russia and China invade and the US don't show up to fucking, because they're afraid of nuclear escalation, which is a very reasonable concern, At some point, you might even have to conclude that the United States should not intervene if Russia invades Europe, precisely because global nuclear war would be worse than the Eurasian continent uniting under state capitalist pseudo-communism. As awful as that sounds, but at least it's not global thermonuclear war and subsequent extinction of everything, because the atmosphere might stay up. Anyway, this was not supposed to be the Doomer podcast, but what can I say? It's 2021.
So, somewhat related, I was listening to a podcast on YouTube about the origins of decentralization on the internet, and it kind of
link in the chat, link in the description.
It started with, so obviously it came around after encryption protocols came in, where you could encrypt messages end to end, and people thought that would provide enough privacy, but there was some guy, I don't know his name, but he recognized that there was still ways to identify people with metadata, so you could still see who was transacting with who, when and where the transactions were happening. And he was trying to think of ways to develop privacy around that, and that's kind of how decentralization came about online. Before Bitcoin.
Bitcoin is not decentralized.
What do you mean?
Well, you know my theory about how thoughts don't originate inside the brain. They hover around in the ether. And if you're oriented a certain way, you can perceive those thoughts like an antenna, right? There were variations on the blockchain scheme floating around in the ether back in 2008, 9. One of the things that came to my mind was everybody has a phone in their pockets. Everybody has some kind of device, and the people that don't have some kind of device could have like a Raspberry Pi, which was then just coming up, So if everybody would have, so at the time, because we didn't have blockchain wasn't a thing yet, so that wasn't available as a metaphor. I thought, well, what if you have like a torrent file with version recognition, right? With version history, with revision history, which is basically a blockchain, right? It's an Excel file or something. It's like it's a database sheet that remembers mutations. That you can have an account to basically something like that.
It's like Git almost.
I don't understand it well enough to have a clear 2-sentence explanation, but this is close enough for now. Or at least that was the thought that I had at the time. Something like that. A public ledger with a with revision history, that you have your own, unique identifier, because you have your own hardware thing. You have so everybody's running it, right? We share it through basically a BitTorrent kind of protocol, and you have the encryption built in, and then this thing can also provide. Basically, the idea was to do a basic income, right? Because at the time we had huge austerity coming in, and the way they used the austerity thing in the wake of the financial crisis, of course. So faith in banks had been eroded, government stepping in to like fix it, but in the process they destroyed all the kind of public services that we had and the subsidies for the art world. So my idea was, how can we get art, how can we fund the arts without the government? And it was, well, if everybody just if we just imagine a new currency and we do a basic income in that, and we use that to buy art, it's like, yeah, but how do you do that without getting the government to do it for you? It's like, well, we use the available hardware that everybody has. Anyway, wow, let's cut this whole thing out where I try and backwards compatible the blockchain thing to the... It's just, I'm trying to, this happened in 2009. I'm trying to cram another 12 years of just watching this stuff unfold, and then look at what Bitcoin has become, which is basically, the answer to your question is, but isn't Bitcoin decentralized? No, because decentralization would mean you have a little app running in the background of your phone that is keeping a collective network intact, right? That all the communication happens through that thing. Like even our little Jitsi meeting here doesn't even go through our DNS anymore. Like, the point of that is, if you have true decentralization, you even have decentralized domain name resolution. Your ISP cannot block your torrent site anymore, right? You can have the Pirate Bay because it's, the link to where it is in the public ledger. It's not something that you can censor. So we have uncensorable money. Bitcoin is not uncensorable. I mean, sure it is. Okay, maybe it is, but it's not decentralized because it's running on, you could have a 51% attack from 6 or 7 mining facilities in China. It's literally centralized.
Well, we could run nodes on our computers and be part of that decentralized network, but there is definitely a monopoly over it.
Problem is the proof of work model.
Yeah, the consensus mechanism.
Yeah, if you're using basically hash rate in a way, hash rate is a good thing because it does make the system more secure against attacks. So I don't have the solution to that because I'm not a cryptographer. But you could do if you could do proof of work, but instead of having the issue is that the coins are generated at the point of the mining. But the coins should be you should only have the block reward should only be the transaction costs, and the coins themselves should be issued inside every wallet.
Yeah.
Or at least and then the other issue with that is every used wallet, every wallet that is actually being used by an individual human being. And then the question is, yes, but how do you verify that? How do you keep that system from being abused? And I've had those questions for a long time, but someone else came up with dividend pathways, ways to verify or ways to tell based on transactions what are humans interacting with humans networks. But then again, if we do go back to the model of how do we reorganize society in order to weather the storm, whether that storm is endless mutating virus, foreign occupation, climate collapse, or whatever. it all comes down to the same question, which is, or the same answer really, which is spread people out. Right now we have too many vulnerable places, especially cities are not sustainable ways of living because
on global infrastructure.
I think it was or is Derek Jensen who defines a city as any place, or he quotes someone else defining it. Anyway, I heard it from him. He defines a city as any place that requires the input of resources that are coming from somewhere else. Yeah, basically any place that is not able to, or that is only a drain on resources. Now, I don't believe in actual self-sufficient communities. It's always going to be co-sufficient, or interdependent. But it does mean that every community should have their own strengths that they can spread through the network outwardly. So it's not like a city is a place that consumes. A city is a black hole. It sucks in resources and it puts out trash, shit, and fumes. Right? So it's terrible. The city is terrible. It's a terrible place looking at it from a ecosystem perspective. It churns all this all the highly complex things. So ecosystems are being turned into very simple produced commodities, which are then further simplified into just waste streams. And those waste streams then become a problem. So that is a model of society that is a dead end. Whether or not you're, even before anything like pandemics or war or anything like that is taken into the equation. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of so happy with that I got early exposure to the open source model of thinking, because because I grew up with the thinking like Linux, and when the advent of the internet, like I was 12 and then we got the computer, and 14 when we got the first half an mbit broadband stuff, so I could download ISOs for Red Hat Linux 6 and like install it on my first Pentium 4. I was super blessed and privileged to grow up with like being on the cutting edge of sort of consumer internet stuff, but also too poor to afford actual software. So I had like, I don't know, it was like a perfect mix of yeah, it was like to learn just, yeah, it's funny, like a little bit of hacking back when that was still easy. Anyway, learning about open source software early made me like, when I started reading about anarchism, it was a really simple, like it was a really easy fit. I was like, oh, this it resonated strongly with ways of organizing that I had already learned to value, and for which I already had a clear system or a clear example of, oh yeah, this works just like that. If you do that, it works. I believed it would work because I had seen it work, and I had seen it be superior. Because, well, to go back to the Red Hat Linux 6 example, I was mind blown when I was installing that. Windows came on one CD or one DVD, and you would boot it up and it would be like this blue screen with like just drawn things and like the yellow bar that would just give no information at all and last forever. Remember when installing Windows XP or Windows 2000? It felt like you were like doing surgery on a robot. It was terrible. And then at the very same time frame, I'm going into this Red Hat thing, and it's got, like, I boot up from the first CD, got 6 CDs. I'm like, why do I need 6 CDs? I boot up and it's got, the first thing I see is a cursor. There's a mouse. I can move my mouse, and this OS has not been installed yet. you know, and I can pick which packages I want, which desktop environment I want to install, and it's giving me like little tips and tricks while it's showing me a bar that is like high color. It's full 16-bit colors, and underneath it says like we're doing this now, and did you know new in version 6 is this? I'm like, all the stuff that we take for granted now was already invented in Linux ages ago. Like the App Store, right? I was like, oh yeah, I remember this. We have this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just kind of. It feels like maybe that changed my mind about that it's possible to be decades ahead of the mainstream with something. So you shouldn't be afraid if it feels like your thoughts are. So yeah, if it feels like your thoughts are almost incompatible with the society that you find yourself in, right? Reminds me of Oscar Wilde, who said the majority is always wrong. That was lovely for me to hear as an edgy 17-year-old who was like, misunderstood and having anxiety or whatever. But now it's like, yeah, you get to have faith in your own perspective. But in order to do that, you have to kind of explore and be exposed to different ideas, different ways of doing things.
I think that's being the evolution. That's being the evolution.
Right. Yeah. 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 It's an evolutionary. This is an evolutionary moment for humanity. We're in. I mean, I've been saying this for a while, but we're in. This is evolutionary pressure. I firmly believe that evolution happens in bursts under the circumstances, changing circumstances that then propel experimentation, reorganization, fluidity in concepts of species and of self-image, and also we as humanity, we have learned about this. We're coming to grasps with this theory of evolution just in time to apply it to our actual lives. Like, this is such a huge responsibility. I don't think no species on this planet that we know of has ever had this responsibility to take charge of your own evolution. Like, the old concept of evolution as a sorry, what?
You could say that. You could maybe say the same about like mushrooms. They might know that they're on the front of evolution because they've saved us before, haven't they?
Well, let's see. Too early to tell. I haven't had a chance to ask them if they've saved us before. That's the first time I hear that, but it's interesting, and I wouldn't put it past them. But we get a chance to give shape to our own evolution. Like, I get how tempting it is to worry and to be all doomery about like, but it's also like such a wonderful, inspiring, interesting moment to live in. Like, oh my God, have we really been given this opportunity and this responsibility? Like, wow, I didn't know that we were worth such to live right now. Is something to really take to heart and to treasure. Like, hey, you're living right now. That's not a coincidence, and your being alive right now is completely part of the puzzle, and you're intricate and necessary and crucial part of the whole.
Yeah.
And we need you. Humanity needs you. The Earth needs you. We all to play your part to the best of your capacity, and to follow your heart in that, to follow your guidance, and your convictions, and your vision, and your truth, and your dreams, and your what is really alive in you. That's gonna take us forward. And if you follow your fear or your lack of self-reliance, and you instead try and find authority figures outside of yourself to follow, they will lead you into your death and the end of your line, because your line is not working. That's also evolution. Evolution is extinction, but it is extinction of non-adaptive modes of being. And you have a choice right now where you're going to be on the, after all of this is over, sort of the map of species. Are you on a dead end? Are you going extinct? Or are you evolving? And, in a way, relinquishing some of the key, or what you think of as key things about the way humans live right now. We're going to have to let go of some of those because they're no longer compatible with the world that we've created. Or that others have created for us, or we have let them create for us, or we've tried to stop them from creating for us, but not managed to because so many people chose differently. And in a way, we have collectively also, we're kind of in a collective dream of, well, let's go kind of, people are kind of in a way have a sense of anticipation of a shift. Yeah. And that's really is happening. And I do believe that there's there's light in the end of the tunnel. And I've like, that thing about, remember when we have jokes about like, if we're like the last people on Earth, we'll have to repopulate the planet. Like, yeah, it'll be something like that is possible. I don't claim to know, but that is one of the scenarios with which I personally reckon. Like that could be the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it does become a matter of surviving whatever is happening, while keeping those aspects of your humanity that you value and want to bring into the future intact, and letting go of those things that don't serve you or don't serve anything. So yeah, you get to pick what is really important to you, or what you think should be important to people in the future, because it's important to you now, and live according to those principles, and hope they carry you to the other side, so that it becomes the thing. Basically, pick your trajectory, and see if it takes you to the future or to the end. Because yeah, this conversation has helped me move beyond the framework of, oh, humanity, are we going to survive or are we going extinct? Both. We're going to have species bifurcation of sorts, and some of those forks are not going to stick around. If you want some help being conceptualizing of the notion of this, I recommend the book Seveneves by by Neal Stephenson. This great, really nice science fiction. I love it. Highly recommend. To kind of, yeah, large time scale sci-fi stuff, which reminds me that I should be writing, but I just can't get myself to.
I'm going to read the writing stuff as well. That was beautiful.
Thanks for giving me the time to speak. And
of course. Well, yeah, I think it's important for us who can like see the light at the end of the tunnel to like take us there as well.
Yeah, you need to have some kind of vision. You need something worth following, something that gives you the feeling that you can go on, even when it gets really dark. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your vision is not, if it's not fully felt, is not fully embodied, you don't fully trust it with your life, with your heart, with your well-being, with your family, then in those crucial moments where it is really put to the test, you'll fail. When it really comes down to the line, when you really come to, all or nothing survival moments, you better be embodying the thing that will make it through, right? So when I'm talking about survival or evolution, it's not about you as a person or you as a gene pool or you as a family tree, but about those, in a way, principles that you embody, that you choose to carry with you. You're a carrier of a tradition.
The idea.
Yeah. And some of those things are going to last, and some of those are not. And the profit motive is not going to last. Feudalism is not going to last. Dominator hierarchies are not going to last. The patriarchy is not going to last. Sexism is not going to last. Because it's brittle and rigid, and it cannot adapt in a way that is.
Might as well throw capitalism and colonialism in there too.
Well, all of those things depend on that plus racism, which is not going to last. Why? Because racism doesn't motivate you to sacrifice yourself in order to for your tribe to survive or whatever. It's an outward projection of fear. So in the crux moment, it won't compel you to do the right thing. It won't compel you to make a sacrifice or do something that'll make it possible for your tribe to move on beyond into the next valley or beyond the next chasm to find, whatever promised land awaits you at the end of your tribulations. And those tribulations are real and they have a spiritual dimension. And their purpose is to weed out the the odds and ends that don't belong in this world anymore. Those attitudes that will make the world seemingly unlivable are only going to make the world unlivable for those who maintain those attitudes. But there will always be a livable world if you have the ability to change your perception and the ability to change your mind and the ability to adapt, because that's what we do as humans. We are very adaptive. And indeed, you mentioned mushrooms. There we go. Those come back now.
I'm just thinking now. Have you read the book How to Change Your Mind? Michael Pollan. Do you know that book?
I know of the book.
Yeah.
But I haven't read it. Oh yeah, but it's about psychedelics, isn't it? Yeah, Michael Pollan. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's where that comes in, right? Because all these tryptamine-ish substances help neuroregeneration. So if we come into situations where we need to change our mind, we need to change our rigid belief systems, and we need to change our rigid self-perceptions, and we need to make ourselves capable of having a we mentality where you can be more inclined to self-sacrifice in the course of communal survival and communal thriving. So that we become sharers and carers. Some people, if you feel like you're stuck in a mentality, if you feel it's hard for you to adapt to this new world, you might be really helped by mushrooms. I was.
I am thinking about trying microdosing. Would you have any encouragement there? Well, more than encouragement, but just, you know.
I tried it a little bit. I dabbled with it. I would make sure
Yeah.
that, but with, so don't make. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't like to use imperative forms when it comes to this. You know, figure it out. Figure it out. But you know, still have actual doses. Like actual doses are good.
Yeah, I do think so.
I've heard. Let's say I've heard of people who do who just do regular actual doses, and don't worry.
Yeah.
Don't worry about becoming incompatible with society. That's, you know, society is already incompatible with the circumstances it finds itself in. So don't you worry about not being able to find your way back into polite society. Okay? So if that is why you say I want to do microdosing because then I can take a little bit of mushrooms every other day, it's like why take a little bit? You know, no, I'm you don't have to do it every integration, right? If you're having the actual experience, integration is a really big part of it, and it also means that even when you supposedly sober, you're still gonna have experiences that are psychically or spiritually linked to your process of integration. Like you're still going to be tested, like I mentioned earlier, like the tribulations that your sort of tribe or your society experiences. Like when Moses is leading the Israelites to the promised land, right? And they find um, the sea, and people are like, "What do we do now?" Well, God will make a way, right? But first, they have a couple of days of sitting there and nothing happening. And in a way, that is a test. Like, can you just sit there with nothing happening and trust that that something will happen and that you will find a way? Or is your tribe going to fall apart into squabbles and civil war and unrest and barbarism before an opening arrives? So, in a way, yeah, tests of faith occur even in your own lifetime as part of your integration process, as part of becoming the person that you need to become in order to carry through this package of concerns, values, ideas, beliefs, and ultimately, yes, genes that you represent into the next world. What was the thing? The old world is dying and the new one struggles to be born. This is the time of monsters. Don't become one. Right?
Yeah.
So take really good care of yourself. Take good care of your health, and indeed of your mental health. Basically, imagine that you're gonna have to live. You're gonna have to live through the worst 35 years of that you can imagine, and you have to come out the other end with your sanity and your physical well-being intact in order to repopulate the earth, basically have kids and raise them well so that a new paradigm may emerge after this. But yeah, there's very good reason to consider that the circumstances for the next 30 years of your life or whatever are going to be, well, anywhere from uncomfortable struggle to hellish in the most evocative and visually compelling sense of the word. Because, yeah, humanity has many technologies with which to turn the earth into a hellscape. And those in power seem unwilling to let go of them, and that could cause problems. So anticipate those problems happening. Yes, that sucks, but don't fight against what you cannot control. Do what you can. And that means, well, that means tell the truth, do what's needed, and do it communally, do it together. Have it be a thing where it's not about you deciding or me deciding or having kind of a rigid hierarchical structures. No, it's about how to, again, decentralize in order to keep this vision carried between the people so that no individual is beyond, that no individual becomes indispensable. Because in a way, we need to all kind of let go of our egocentrism, and we all need to become more willing to sacrifice ourselves for something. And I know that sounds awful, like we have to use language like sacrificing yourself within the context of the society that we have now. It's like awful. What kind of cult is this idiot trying to recruit people to? It's like, what kind of terrible thing do you have in mind? Like, no, I'm. This is more about willingness too. This is about, yeah. This is in a way, it is a representation of the sort of struggle between light and darkness, or Christ and Lucifer, that we know from Christianity and stuff. It's, are you going to sacrifice yourself, or are you going to sacrifice everyone else? Do you, what is your attitude to life and the living and the planet and So yeah, have an attitude towards life that is that makes it possible to give this planet on. Like, we're borrowing it from our grandchildren and their grandchildren, right?
Mm-hmm.
So adopt an attitude, because honestly, our grandchildren are going to be cleaning up our mess and their mess and all the mess for the next 10,000 years.
Yeah.
I'm also keeping that in mind as one of the possibilities. That it is just this is just something I found at the bottom of deep wells of consciousness, misery, introspection, and psychedelics. It is, we're gonna be plucking tiny specks of plastic out of the sea floor for the next 50,000 years. And that's almost the best case scenario. So, get ready. But the suffering is rewarded in some sense, because consciousness is not what it seems from our individual perspectives. If we can make it through, and if we can come out the other end, and if we can have a truly living world where each of us is valued, where everybody is seen as an expression of consciousness and of the source and of truth, and if everybody is valued as a true representative of the light of consciousness and of being and of love and all this good shit, then that's the world that becomes possible then, and the kind of integration that becomes possible then is beyond our current language, but it's worth it, and we might see it, maybe not in this life, but we'll see it in some sense. We will see it, after death, in some abstract form. I don't know. I haven't been, but I have a hunch. In the same way that, you often hear may you live in interesting times. May you live in well, we live in interesting times. So we are already there. And we have, it's not that I necessarily know or believe that when people say, oh, you know, before life you made a contract or a decision to be born in this time because you wanted to live through this experience, I don't need to believe that or know it for sure. I find it an interesting way of looking at things because it gives you the sense of purpose and of responsibility. Like, yeah, I find myself in this circumstance, and there's something I can do with it. I get to engage with this reality. It's not something that's happening to you, where you're blowing in the wind. You are a part of this. You are intricate of this, and having these experiences is almost why you're even alive. And that, yeah, that can be a lot to carry, but it also gives you a lot of strength if you can muster it, if you can bear it, and if you draw from it the realization
of this does happen to you. It's a really good point because I do feel it often feels like the world is happening to us, but it's something to engage with.
Yeah, any sort of it's happening with you, it's happening for you. Even if that sucks, you're like, I didn't ask for this. Yeah, but sure, you in that sense don't exist. It in that sense doesn't exist. But
do you think that's there? Mushrooms?
No, I don't know about that. It's more like, well, you didn't ask for this, no, but this moment asked for you. You are you.
But I kind of like in terms of the like perspective of the mushroom. Say you're like on a trip to like, oh fuck's sake, I'm like, this is what my reality is now.
Right. So if you're tripping on mushrooms, right? Let's go to that. So let's say that you've heard this talk and you think, okay, well, great. Clearly, all of this boggles my mind and I'm scared. But if you say that eating mushrooms will help me loosen up my convictions and my contraptions and my structures enough to let in some new information and maybe even see the light at the other end of it and maybe find a way, you know, so that I can find a way through somehow. You know, a little bit of WD-40 for your sense of self and the way that you structure your reality. Bad example. Anyway. So, well, you've been convinced to try mushrooms. I don't know how, but good for you. Just like in reality, if you are experiencing life or the trip and you go, oh, this is awful and I didn't ask for this and ooh, this is terrible. If you go in resistance, right? I think the cliche that people are already aware of now is our brains are great at finding confirmation for the things that you already think and believe. So if your mind, then this is how the mindset creates your reality, because you're gonna experience confirmation of the things that you think. So if you feel like, ooh, this is all coming on pretty strong, or it's showing me things that I want to see, and it's all awful, then, well, your resistance to it is making it worse. Okay, this is not actually helping people. What do I mean? I mean surrender. Really surrender, really trust it. Just go in, let it take you.
Is theorized as like the resistance to what the experience is bringing to you.
Mm-hmm. Terence McKenna, who is this is what I do when I don't know what to say. I just say, well, Terence McKenna said that what he did when he would take mushrooms was just in a quiet space, close your eyes, and when you feel it sort of coming up, you say, yes, I'm here. Take me. Please don't hurt me. You give consent to be shown whatever it is that you need to be shown. And in that sense, you also give yourself permission to surrender into the experience fully. and accept what's happening with you. It's like, in a way, yeah, it's like when you have like psychologically confrontational experiences with people. It works if it is something that is happening consensually. It's much easier to, yeah, to release your resistance to the experience, right? If someone is like pushing your buttons and pulling your strings and triggering you without your consent, then you're much more resisting, and the potential for it being a traumatic experience is higher. Um, which is why people dissociate, which is also sort of an evolutionary thing.
Which is why people dissociate.
Yeah, do you kind of yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it turns into like an out of body experience, or an absence, kind of, well, all kinds of things. What I mean is, don't if you realize that you're it's hard. I feel like I'm talking about territory that I don't really know enough about to give conclusive things on. Just that I've seen people have bad trips. And again, this is what Terence said was what Westerners do, because we don't consider ourselves Westerners because we don't understand that the context we're in is like the culture that we're in is a culture at all. It's hard to see your own culture, but we have this culture, and what we tend to do when things in the psychedelic space get hard is to curl up into a little ball and assume the fetal position and just go, I hope this ends soon. Which is something that you can see happening all around you as people have roughly this response to the lockdown and the corona pandemic. I myself have found myself curled up into some kind of ball more than once, and for more than a few weeks in total, as a response, just as a way to conserve energy in a way while riding it out. But it didn't actually help my mental well-being to it. It didn't help me be more resilient to and to actually be useful to other people around me with their struggle and helping them navigate this, which I felt like I would have wanted to be much more part of my lockdown experience, actually. To yeah, which was the original intent in a way behind Radio Regen and starting it up again, especially in the early days of the pandemic. It's just that well, I didn't manage to, because indeed it was too much. I didn't find the support in my own environment to yeah, I don't know, I got trapped in that same psychological web of feeling like this is all something happening to me that I don't know how to get out of, and I'm just trying to survive it, and disassociating, or distracting myself through Netflix, video games, or literally trying to escape and just take breaks from it and go spend some time in nature and stuff like that, which I'm very lucky that I got to do. And in a way, I could sense on a spiritual experience level that the reason those roads were open to me, that the option was even there for me, was because I'd already done a lot of the, confronting myself with my role in society, and with how, yeah, that I didn't necessarily need to have the full on lockdown experience, um, for which I'm happy, and I got to instead put more time into the importance of listening to nature and connecting with nature. And I don't know if that's the way to describe it, but honing my intuition, and also, yeah, getting more faith in it, like getting to see the results. And yeah, I got, in a way, I got strengthened in my trust in myself, in a way, and that the path that I chose, it was a lot harder to see that was right before. So I'm glad I did. But now with the clear evidence that to be well adjusted to an ill society is no measure of health, and that my own non-adjustment to it, I feel a bit vindicated in that, and I really don't mean that as a judgment to society or the people in it. It's just more of a relief for myself. It's kind of yeah. Corona has been challenging. It's also been, what do you call that again? Yeah. The cathartic. That's there have been moments of catharsis. Resolution of long tension that was held for a long time. I feel it in my body. I feel more relaxed. Yeah. So, want to invite people to take themselves more seriously, to trust more their intuition and their hearts and their, I don't know. You know what someone would say in this situation. Just all the cliches, but they have a good, they're rooted in something real. Blah, blah. Is this where I go and like, subscribe, comment your favorite way to? I don't know. I don't know how to wrap this up. Just yeah.
Maybe it's not something we've learned. Good. Yeah, maybe just thank you if anybody is listening.
Yes, thank you. That's right. Gratitude. Gratitude's the attitude. Yes, thank you, MJ. First of all.
It was a good roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll find links in the description for Michael Pollan, the podcast that you were listening to.
Yeah, I'll try to find that.
Maybe Seveneves, if you want to read that. And then finally, if you want to hear more of this kind of stuff, check out the rest of the channel. But more importantly, check out Terence McKenna. Yeah. I don't know, stuff like that. We'll and stay subscribed or whatever, because I do feel like it's time to do more of these. I don't know. That's what I want to. I don't know. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this whole talking to a theoretical audience about what they should or shouldn't be doing thing. Not my strong suit. I wish this was live and that we had a Q&A section. That's my that's what I wanted.
That's the format. I think Q&A would probably take up most of episodes, to be honest.
Oh yes, no, definitely. That's the point. I want this to derail into ask me anything, and I will rave on whatever topic that people think about. That's the idea of the that's the premise. Before Bitcoin, right on.
There's a section on I timestamped the origins of decentralization.
Oh yeah, awesome. The timestamps are oh yeah, and if you wanna look more at crypto UBI stuff, I highly recommend the Twitter account for there's someone I follow on Twitter, or a mutual on Twitter. Okay, well, whatever. Just follow me on Twitter. I have to change my handle because right now it's something funny but not useful.
Right.
But yeah, so there's Johan, and where is all the? I don't know anymore. I can't find it. Okay, well, clearly that's the part where this whole thing derails. Origins decentralization. Did you timestamp the sort of my attempt at wrapping this up?
No, I actually can't even see the time of how long we've been on.
Oh, so what did you timestamp?
I timestamped that YouTube link I sent.
Oh, inside the YouTube link. Oh, you put it on that.
On the part I was talking about.
Fair enough. That's fine.
Maybe if you have like a text file to accompany this recording. And then I found sorting by date is really useful for these things. Like naming files starting with like the year and then month and day.
OBS names them. OBS puts the date and time in the file name.
Amazing. It's good tech.
Yeah. Open source, right?
That's it. Collective vision.
Yeah. Wisdom of the crowd.
Picture actually.
So what?
I sent you a picture on 420. That looks great piece.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's good. Is that the one you have?
Yep.
Excellent.
This is actually like an amazing trip spot, if I'm being honest, because I have this couch here folds out into a bed, so I can like look straight up.
Yeah, it looks. Is that your bed or?
It was for a while. I moved to an actual bed.
Right. Anyway, that's all. Well, lovely. I'm glad that you're figuring it out, but I don't know if it's very useful to the audience. Does it have to be though? Does it have to be? Isn't half the fun of this about building up these parasocial relationships?
Yeah.
We'll never know. Okay. So is this where we cut off the recording?
I think so.
Just drop people back into the abyss of their lives? I'm joking. Well, I'm not joking. You have to face it. All right.